of the Lord is in this place.
What a beautiful song that is to lead us into meditation. The theme today being that of God's abundant supply. And as you prepare for meditation, please get comfortable with your body, with your breath, and simply be in the presence of God's grace. And feel the presence of God's grace. For God supplies our needs. His riches are without bounds. Therefore, our riches are without bounds. Let this truth drop into our awareness. With God, our riches are without bounds. Take a moment to silently ask God for what it is your heart desires. Imagine God standing before you with open hands, overflowing for what it is you desire. Now imagine yourself receiving, actively receiving, gratefully receiving, abundantly receiving. And remember the words of our opening affirmation. I give and receive with an open heart, honoring the sacred rhythm of life. Breathe in God's abundance. And when you exhale, release doubt or fear of not having enough. Inhale, receiving, welcoming God's abundance to flow in, through, and around you. Exhale the doubt. Inhale the welcome. Rest in the quiet knowing that you are provided for with loving abundance. Return to the room knowing that you are provided for with loving abundance. And so it is.
pretty faces. See little smiles out there. Yeah. Molly, smile. There you go. Okay. I just want to get everybody a little bit warmer. See, doesn't that feel better? David, are you smiling? Okay, good. So I'm going to read to you, part of it was in the weekly, but I'm going to read to you a writing from Dr. Ernest Holmes about abundance is my inheritance. It's my inheritance. And when you look at it from that point of view, it gives you a completely different perspective of the way that you look at prosperity. So, which is why it's so funny, because I was going on Tuesday, what am I going to talk about? I don't know, I have to know by Wednesday. And then this came across my computer, and I went, oh, there we go. Thank you, God. So this is a reading from Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the originally creator of the Science of Mind, which is now Centers for Spiritual Living. So, abundance is mine. I cannot be deprived of my supply. The trees do not lack for leaves, nor do the flowers fail to bloom. Am I not as important as they? Consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed by one of these. I look at the lavish wastefulness of nature, and I know God intended me to be abundantly supplied with everything that makes for beauty, well-being, progressive living, and happiness. Myself am to blame when these fruits of spirit fail to appear. Since I know the truth of my being, I will no longer hinder or retard my good from coming to me. I will expect and accept all that I need to make my life happy and worthwhile. For I am a child of spirit, and every attribute of it, every attribute of good, is my inheritance. Nothing but lack of faith can keep my good from me, for I am one with the universe essence of life, of spirit, and its substance will manifest as I believe. No longer will I go for my good, carting away only a dipper to be filled. This day, as I turn to Father within, I bring all the empty vessels to be filled, knowing that they will be filled and my abundance will become manifest. That in itself is the whole endeavor of prosperity right there. If we bring that little cup, please, sir, can I have some more? Or, hey, universe, here I am, and I'm open to all the good that can come to me, right? So in this passage then, from the Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes states that abundance is a divine inheritance, urging us to shift then from the scarcity mindset to an open, expecting faith modeled by the extravagance of nature. You know, every time I am working with my plants and I cut these little pieces off and then I'm putting them in water and I'm making new plants, and several of my neighbors have 4 of my plants in their house that I started. And every time we throw a pit away, right, we know that that could grow more if we planted it. You know, so there's an extravagance of nature, and how do we look at that? How do we look at that extravagance? And how do we waste that extravagance? So by aligning with universal spirit, rather than limiting one's own expectation, Holmes teaches that we need to accept life of comprehensive well-being and abundant supply. Right? Abundant supply. We had no kids, and then we said we will build it and they will come. Abundant supply. And that's how the mind works. You know, it's not like I'm a magician and said, oh, you know, this can happen. No, it was the belief, build it and they come. Let us not waste that space down there filled with stuff. Let's clean out the stuff and bring in the abundance of love and joy through children. So The law of nature then lavishes. So what is Holmes saying? The lilies of the field, to show abundance isn't something learned through toil. We don't have to work our fingers to the bones to have abundance. It's a natural state. It's the state of who and what we should be. Just as the trees don't struggle to produce leaves, then your life is designed to flourish. Automatically, when you stop resisting the natural flow of life. The text gently shifts responsibility to the individual. Oh, don't you just love this teaching? It always shifts us right back to us, right? It suggests that lack isn't a degree from God, but a result of our own mental hindrance. We stop the flow. So by identifying truth of your being, you remove the internal barriers of doubt that keeps your good at arm's length, right? This is your divine inheritance. You are born with it. You aren't just asking for a blessing, you are claiming. Remember in this New Thought teaching, we don't beg, we don't ask for, we claim what is ours to be. So we claim our inheritance. We claim it. Because you're a child of spirit. The attributes of God, peace, wealth, and joy, this is all a part of your DNA, right? And you're simply stepping into what already belongs to you. And then I love the metaphor of the dipper versus all the empty vessels, right? It's a call to action. What are you looking for? It's a call to action. There's a story from a long, long time ago through my teaching, but this couple always wanted to live in a beautiful house. And they were of lesser means, way lesser means than this big, beautiful house. And they used to drive around good neighborhoods. And there's this one house they loved, and they would just sit there and dream about this house. And finally, the people came out one day because periodically they would see them. And they said, "Can we help you?" And she said, "Oh, we're sorry. It didn't mean to inconvenience you. We were just, this is our dream to live in a house like this." And through the conversations, it ended up that they hired the lady as a housekeeper, and they hired the gentleman for the grounds. So you never know how it is going to open up for you. That was their dream, to live in that house. So I think it's a beautiful story, right? So the universe says we don't fail because the universe is empty, right? We fail because our containers are too small. We gotta make our containers bigger. Our faith and imagination are too small, right? To hold the magnitude of what's offered, we have to open up and be bigger and better, right? So both Eric Butterworth and Charles Fillmore teach that abundance isn't about having more, but about being a clearer channel for the divine flow through specific mental and spiritual practices. In other words, we have to be this big open vessel for the goodness to flow into us. Does that make sense, you guys? Yeah? Okay, good, great. So blessings are an act of multiplication, says Fillmore, right? He says that multiplication emphasizes the simple act of blessing what you currently have. What you currently have, not begrudging what you don't have, but blessing what you do have, no matter how small. That's what triggers increase. You know, my sister went to a religious science. So funny. She's in Colorado mountains, and I was in New York and didn't even know she went to religious science, and I'm studying to be a religious science minister. It's kind of crazy, but she's never wealthy. But if she found a dime, she would put it in one of those stores where they have the thing where you can just put pennies or a little change. And if she found $1, she would take 10 cents, and she would tithe that. You know, so it doesn't matter your level. Well, I only have $1. I only found $1. I need it. No, tithe 10 cents of it. Put it in that little thing, right? So that's where this whole teaching comes into. Fillmore says that blessing the substance is what increases the flow, right? He famously suggests that if your wallet feels empty, I love this, you should literally take it in your hands, right? And bless it to stay connected to divine substance. So if you have your wallet and maybe you have $10 left and, I bless this which I have now. I see it multiply and divide into the goodness for what I need for my life. Simple prayer. It's not, dear God, give me more money. It's right, I'm blessing this. I see my wallet overflowing. And from that comes joy and harmony in my life. See the difference between I want, I need, rather than blessing the joy of that which I have, that which I share, right? So Fillmore compares our words again to seeds, right? So when we bless and give thanks, we're watering seeds, right? Allowing them to grow from invisible substance into visible form. The more we bless, the more we get. And I am a walking truth of that. My entire life is based on this principle, absolutely based on it. And then Butterworth, I kind of did Butterworth and Fillmore through here in his book, Spiritual Foundations, Economics rather, reframes generosity not as a sacrifice. Oh my God, I got to give this. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that next week too. So it's not a sacrifice, but it's a higher vibration of abundance, right? The more I give, the more I receive, the happier I am. I was so blessed the other day from somebody in here at 9 o'clock in the morning. I had a bouquet of flowers from one of you guys, it doesn't matter whom, like this, beautiful, big yellow roses, this big. And it's like, oh my God. See, so you never know when your good is coming to you, right? And that was more exciting than getting a $100 bill, because someone took the time to care, and that's what we need to do. We get so like, I have to hold on because I don't know what's happening in this crazy world. I have to hold on. No, this is the time when you put out and let go. You get that food in the basket for the people. Get clothes to the homeless shelters. This is the time where we support those that are hurting much more. We don't like what's going on, most of us, I'm sure. But we still can function within it. We can still rise above it and know that there's more good coming than not that which is good. So Butterworth, he talks about the high viewpoint, and that's what I'm speaking about. We have to have this higher viewpoint. Butterworth says its high viewpoint is rising above fear and panic. So a lot of people right now are in fear and panic, and this is not good, right? Rise above fear and panic to look at the situation from a broader spiritual perspective and ever-present substance. High viewpoint. Yeah, right. So when the appearance of lack shows up in your life, go to that high viewpoint. Be grateful and bless it. Once you've blessed it, you can easily then let go and gain back the control of your own creative process. And thus, the flow is open. And once that floodgate opens, the unexpected everything just comes flowing into you. In the way of friendship, in the way of love, in the way of a new job, in a way of a check that you didn't know somebody owed you. You just never know what's going to end up at your door knocking at 9 o'clock in the morning. You just don't know. So by being generous with your time, with your energy, and the resources you give away to the divine flow, it ensures you must receive in return. 10% out, 10% in. Okay, but it's not like you give $100 and say, okay, now I'm going to get $1,000. No, you can't fool the universe. That doesn't work. Just thought I'd let you know. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Butterworth defines true prosperity as an attitude of going forward. true prosperity, an attitude of going forward, right? Generosity is the physical expression of the belief that there is always all sufficiency, even with insufficiency. There is always all sufficiency, even within insufficiency. And another thing from Fillmore, he speaks about refreshing rain. He talks a lot about water and rain and flow and rivers. And he says he likens true thanksgiving to rain falling upon ready soil. I'm sure making it more productive. I'm sure, David, that resonates to you, right? Rain falling upon ready soil, making it more productive. It's the quality of the soil that makes the whole universe listen and respond. The quality of what is going on within your heart and soul and your mind. What is that thought process? What is the quality? What is the beauty? I had a beautiful Friday and a beautiful Saturday, and I was so gracious to wake up this morning to know that I could come here and share this with you, because it's so important that, especially in these times, but you know what, 30 years they were saying in these times, and 60 years ago they were saying in these times, and 150 years from now they're going to be saying in these times. Not that it makes that any better, but it's the reality of living. It's the reality of living. And I saw something on TV last night that really struck with that about mistakes. And the grandfather was telling the granddaughter, always honor your mistakes. Honor your mistakes and learn from your mistakes, and then you're going to make some more mistakes. And this is what our world goes on and on and on. They make mistakes, they figure out the mistakes, they get rid of who they don't like for the mistakes, then they bring in another good guy, and that good guy comes, but then another guy comes and makes mistakes, and it goes on and on and on. But how do we live within that? We live from a higher viewpoint, right? We still be that good person. We still have integrity. We still know what our North Star is. We stick to our morals. We teach our children better, right? Fillmore's famous quote is, "It's a sin to be poor." That made a lot of heads rise because we don't believe in sin. But he uses the word sin in a metaphysical rather than a moral word. In the original Greek and the Aramaic translation, sin often means to miss the mark or fall short of the goal. It's actually an archer's term. In an archer's term, if you miss the center, that's a sin, missing the mark. So for Fillmore, being poor is a sin because it represents a failure to align your mind with the mind of God, your divine inheritance, which is naturally abundant. He says you're missing the goal. You are a child of God, a child of a rich Father, Spirit, who intended you to have the experience of abundance. It did not say go forth and be poor. It said go forth and be abundant, right? He also here we go, these words with 7 syllables, I can't say them. Provocatively stated in the same context, it's a sin. This one will get you guys. It's a sin to wear poor clothes. Emphasizing that our outward expression should reflect the inward richness of spirit. So, Butterworth notes that you become a channel rather than a container. If you try to hold on to everything, right? How can anything come in if you're holding on so tight, right? He must keep the flow open. The open flow is never more apparent than when we experience the miracle of unexpected income. So when a financial surprise catches us off guard, the immediate human instinct is often to hoard. Oh my God, got to cut this, to do this. No, I can't give my neighbor an egg. No, I need that egg. That's the thing, we start to hoard right away, right? But on my journey, my personal journey, right, has taught me the profound truth. I simply cannot afford to tithe. So when I went to my first classes, which it was religious science, science of mind 101, I learned about tithing. I knew nothing about tithing. You know, my family certainly didn't give a lot of money to any church. You know, we got a quarter to put in the basket, $1 on Christmas. And, but I learned, and I took a class right away to get more involved with that. And so I can tell you most honestly, I have tithed 10% of unexpected income from my Science of Mind 101 class on. I have never stopped. And let me tell you a story about that. So I was out of work for a while, and my sister Barbara, the one that's always broke, was broke. So I sent her $100. Wasn't going to kill me, even though I was out of work. And the next day in the mail, I got $500 from a friend in California who knew I was out of work. See, it's already in process. It's already happening. The universe is already hearing. It's already moving forward. It's a complete cycle. You know, I have a sister, God love her, she's in heaven, wherever that may be, and she's always yelling at me because I spend too much money, I give too much away, you're always going to be poor, you're going to end up a beggar on the street. I don't know, do I look like a beggar on the street? I don't think so. And I always said the universe will provide, and she said, yeah, right, you know, God's going to send money from heaven. Well, God has sent money from heaven to me all the time in my life. Every time I have needed something, it shows up. It shows up. So my thing is you can't outgive God. You just can't outgive God. So, yeah, we have a few people in here who tithe on unexpected income. Most don't, and that's okay because it has to be from consciousness. You know, when I was in classes, and we've had board meetings here from professionals, and they always say the minister's job is not to grow a church. The minister's job is to grow consciousness. And as your consciousness grows and you open up more to the idea of abundance and the inward and outward flow of things, then your things will change, right? But whenever unexpected income arrives, tithing on it immediately flips the script of lack. It transforms a surprising blessing into a deliberate act of spiritual partnership, right? So it is my way of proving to myself that I recognize the divine, not as a random act of luck. It wasn't luck that I got that $500. That wasn't luck. That was already in process from Spirit. As I was writing out the check for my sister, somebody was already writing a check to me. See how that works? And it works. I know it as I'm standing here. It works. I used to think when they called this stuff in the old days, this stuff works. I know that, right? So, and there's authors, John Randall Price, to those of you who've been around, the modern prosperity teachers suggest the form of giving isn't about funding a building. Your tithes that come in, your love offerings on Sunday, it's not about paying for a building. It's about calibrating your mind to abundance. That which I give out comes back to me tenfold. Right? That which I give out comes back to me tenfold. So by joyfully returning tenth of what we never anticipated receiving, we signal the universe that we are safe. We're an open channel. Here's an interesting thing, though. So, all right, so when you go out this week and you get $1,000 unexpected, and, oh, wow, I'm going to give the church $100. I get that now, right? Look what happened. Okay, so then you get $2,500 from an insurance check you didn't know about it. Okay, do I have to give him $250 of that? Maybe not. But then here's the big one, you win the lottery, the big lottery. Okay, you want me to give 10% of that to the church? I don't think so. You see how our mind gets twisted in all of this? So if you win $340 billion and you can keep 90% of it that you didn't know you were going to win and give 10% maybe to the church in your favorite, like 2% to your favorite charity, whatever you do with that, right? But no, you want me to give how much money? See, And this is where our mind, this is where consciousness comes into, can I do this? Will I do this? It's so easy to give $100, $50. But can you give 200,000? Just some questions to throw out there to think about. There is a miracle of the unexpected tithes, is that it permanently shifts you from wondering if we have enough, knowing we're always connected to an overflow. When my friend died in New York, my friend Lynn, and I had a check in the mail for $400,000. Yeah. Right? Didn't know it was coming, didn't expect it, was able to buy a home, have a little bit of money left in the bank. Yeah. Always as I need. My rent was going up. It was hitting $1,700 a month in Blue Harbor. And I could then buy a house, which God bless Leanne found for me, and a mortgage of $1,200. Do you see the way the universe works? I'm sitting there, how am I going to pay this $1,700 for a rental? And then the gift rolls in again and again and again. This has been the story of my life. In the first church where I was an assistant minister, they called me the money magnet. Because every time the church needed something, I did a thing, and we talked about a thing, and then the money came in. So anyhow. So for both of these thinkers, to come to a conclusion, for both thinkers, gratitude is not a polite response to a gift. It is a creative tool that shifts your consciousness. It shifts it. And never give out of obligation. You know that thing is before you give the money, come to the altar and forgive your brother. Once you forgive your brother, then come back and give your gift. Yeah, see, there's all of that works within our minds. So as we conclude today then, let's remember that abundance is not a destination we're trying to reach, but reality we are learning to accept that which is ours, right? Dr. Ernest Holmes reminds us that the lavishness is our divine inheritance. It is natural as a blooming flower on a leafy tree. When the world tries to tell us there's not enough, we now know that we have the tools to respond. We take Eric Butterworth's high viewpoint, blessing the very appearance of lack until it dissolves back into the flow of creativity. We practice Fillmore, refreshing rain, gratitude, knowing that our thanksgiving is spiritual water that turns soil of our lives into a productive garden today. Let us stop carrying small dippers to the ocean of life. Instead, let us bring every empty vessel that we have in our lives and we have felt less than and stand ready to be filled with all that is there for us. So by blessing what we have, giving generosity of who and what we are, we're living in a constant state of gratitude. We don't just talk about abundance. We become the very channel from which it flows. Thank you.